In a mountain village, there lived a white cat named Snow with ocean blue eyes. Despite her beauty, she was lonely as other cats feared her unique color. On a rainy day, she heard cries from the forest. There she found Meido, a black kitten trapped in branches. After Snow freed her, they became inseparable friends. They decided to explore the world beyond their village. During their journey, they met many cats, some kind, offering food and shelter, others cruel, trying to harm them. One night they saved an elderly cat from thieves. Through these adventures, they learned true worth lies in kindness, not appearance. When they returned, the village welcomed them as symbols of friendship and tolerance. From that day, Snow and Meido lived happily, teaching everyone about acceptance and the power of true friendship. Their story became a legend, reminding all that differences make us special and compassion unites us. The two cats grew old together, always side by side, proving that friendship can overcome any obstacle. In a mountain village nestled between rolling hills and a sparkling river, there lived a beautiful white cat with fur as soft as freshly fallen snow and eyes as blue as the vast ocean. She had a heart of gold, but no one in the village wanted to be her friend because of her unusual color. All the cats there were either black or orange, and they were afraid of her, calling her names like Ghost Cat and Scary Eyes. So the white cat, whose name was Snow, spent most of her time alone, watching the world go by from the comfort of her home. One day, a fierce storm rolled into the village, lashing out with heavy rain and strong winds. As the thunder roared and lightning flashed, Snow huddled by the window, feeling scared and lonely. Suddenly, she heard a tiny meow coming from the forest behind her house. Concerned, she pushed open the door and braved the downpour to investigate. As she ventured deeper into the woods, the wind snatching at her fur, the sound of the kitten's cries grew louder. Then she saw it, a small black kitten with matted fur, clinging to a branch high up in a tree. The little one's eyes were wide with fear as it looked down at the ground far below. Without hesitation, Snow quickly began to climb the tree. "Don't worry, little one," she called out, her voice gentle and soothing. With a few more leaps, she reached the branch where the kitten was stuck and gently nudged it. "Let me help you get down from there," she purred, trying to calm the frightened animal. The kitten hesitated for a moment, then slowly began to climb down the tree with Snow's help. Once they were both safely on the ground, Snow noticed a gash on the kitten's leg and quickly licked it to clean and disinfect the wound. "You're hurt," she said softly. "Let's take you back to my house so I can take care of you." The little cat looked up at Snow, its eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you," it whispered. "My name is Meido." "It's all right, Meido," Snow replied, smiling gently, "and I'm going to call you that from now on." As they made their way back to Snow's house, the rain had stopped and a rainbow arched across the sky. Meido looked up at Snow in awe. "You were so brave," he exclaimed. "I'm still scared of the storm, but knowing you're with me makes me feel safer already." Snow blushed at the compliment, feeling warmth spread through her chest. "We'll be friends forever, won't we?" Meido asked, his eyes shining with excitement. Of course, Snow purred, nuzzling him, forever and always. The two cats became the best of friends. And as they cuddled together for warmth on cold nights, Snow told Meido stories about the world beyond their village. Filled with curiosity, Meido longed to see what lay beyond their familiar surroundings. One day, as they sat on Snow's windowsill, they spotted a family of cats in the distance, their tails intertwined as they strolled through a field of tall grass. "Can we go explore the world too?" Meido asked hopefully, turning to Snow with pleading eyes. Snow knew that venturing outside the village would be dangerous for them, especially for Meido, who was still a kitten. But seeing the longing in his eyes, she couldn't bear to crush his dreams. So she agreed, and the two cats set off on their adventure together. As they walked through the tall grass, the wind ruffling their fur, they felt a sense of freedom and excitement. Suddenly, they heard a gentle meow and saw a beautiful brown cat with green eyes sitting on a nearby fence post. "Hello," Snow called out politely. "May I ask where we can find some food and water?" The brown cat smiled warmly at them. "Of course," she purred. "You can eat and drink as much as you like in my garden, and if you'd like, you can rest in my barn for the night." Overjoyed, Snow and Meido thanked the kind cat and made themselves comfortable in her garden. They ate until their bellies were full, and then curled up in the hay in the barn, feeling safe and warm. In the morning, they awoke to the sound of birds chirping and the warm sun on their faces. Saying goodbye to their host, they continued on their journey. As they walked, Snow and Meido came across a clearing where several cats were gathered around a large rock. One of them, a muscular gray cat with a scar over his eye, glared at them menacingly. "What are you doing here?" he snarled. "This is our territory." Snow tried to explain that they meant no harm, but the gray cat wouldn't listen. He lunged at Meido, but Snow quickly jumped in front of him, hissing fiercely. The gray cat backed off, surprised by her bravery. "Leave us alone," Snow spat, her eyes flashing. "We won't hurt you if you don't want to hurt us." The gray cat looked at Meido, then back at Snow. Seeing the determination in her eyes, he finally relented. "Fine," he grumbled, "but don't come back here again." Snow and Meido wasted no time in leaving the clearing and continuing their journey. As the days passed, they traveled far and wide, meeting all kinds of different cats. Some were kind and welcoming, sharing their food and shelter with them. Others were cruel and tried to scare them away. One night, while resting in an abandoned barn, they heard a commotion outside. Peeking through a crack in the wall, they saw a group of rough-looking cats arguing over a small, battered bowl. "There's enough food for everyone," a gentle voice said. An elderly ginger cat with a torn ear stepped forward. "Why do you have to be so selfish?" The other cats ignored him and continued fighting over the meager meal. Seeing their mean and selfish behavior, Snow and Meido felt a surge of anger and sadness. They knew they had to do something to help. So while the other cats were distracted, they snuck out of the barn and crept closer to the bowl. Using their combined strength, they managed to push it towards the old cat. "Here you go," Snow meowed softly. "Please take it." The old cat looked up at them in surprise. "Oh, thank you," he purred, his eyes filled with gratitude. "Hey, you're so kind." Before the other cats realized what had happened, Snow and Meido had retreated back to the safety of the barn. They snuggled close for warmth, feeling satisfied with their good deed. As the night wore on, the sounds of the other cats arguing gradually faded away, replaced by the soft chirping of crickets. Snow and Meido slept soundly, knowing that even in the darkest of times, kindness and compassion could prevail. When they awoke, the first rays of sunlight streaming through the cracks in the wall, they knew it was time to continue their journey. Saying goodbye to the old cat, they set off once more, eager to see what new adventures awaited them. As they walked, they talked about all the cats they had met on their journey, the good and the bad. Snow realized that the world was full of both kindness and cruelty, and that no matter what, they should always stay true to themselves. Finally, after weeks on the road, Snow and Meido decided it was time to head home. They had seen so much of the world and learned so much about themselves and each other. They missed their cozy beds and familiar surroundings, and most of all, they missed the friendly faces of the cats in their village. When they arrived, they were greeted with surprise and joy. The cats who had once shunned Snow because of her unique color now welcomed her back with open arms. They understood now that true worth wasn't determined by appearance, but by the kindness and compassion in one's heart. From that day forward, Snow and Meido were celebrated as heroes, having proven that friendship and tolerance could bridge even the deepest divides. They continued to travel the world, bringing their message of acceptance and love to all they met. As the years passed, they grew old together, their bond unbreakable, proving that true friendship could conquer all. Once upon a time in a mountain village nestled between rolling hills, there lived a beautiful white cat with mesmerizing ocean blue eyes. She was known as Snow because of her dazzling white fur that sparkled like fresh fallen snow. But despite her ethereal beauty, Snow was an incredibly lonely cat. See, Snow wasn't like the other cats in the village. Her unique color and piercing blue eyes made her an outcast. The other cats shunned her, believing her to be cursed and dangerous. As a result, Snow spent most of her days wandering the empty streets, yearning for a friend to accept her for who she was. One day, as a heavy rain poured down, drenching the village, Snow sought refuge under the eaves of a house. Suddenly, she heard faint cries coming from the nearby forest. Unable to ignore the distressed meows, Snow cautiously ventured into the woods. There, in the heart of the forest, Snow discovered a tiny black kitten clinging to a branch. The kitten was scared and drenched in the pouring rain. Without hesitation, Snow leaped onto the branch and gently nudged the kitten until it relaxed, allowing Snow to carry it back to the safety of the village. Back in the village, Snow wrapped herself around the little kitten, sharing her body heat and purring softly to comfort it. As the kitten slowly regained its strength, Snow noticed that it had bright emerald eyes that sparkled with curiosity. "What's your name?" asked Snow, hoping to forge a bond with the rescued kitten. "I don't have a name," replied the kitten. "My mother and siblings and I were separated during the storm, and I haven't seen them since." "Well, then I shall name you Meido," said Snow, knowing that this would be the start of a beautiful friendship. From that moment on, the two cats became inseparable. Meido's sleek black fur and striking green eyes complemented Snow's white fur and ocean blue gaze, making them an extraordinary pair. Together, they explored every nook and cranny of the village, chasing butterflies in the meadows and basking in the warm glow of the afternoon sun. Yet a part of Snow couldn't help but yearn for something more, a desire to venture beyond the familiar streets and discover what lay beyond the horizon. One evening, as the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the village, Snow turned to Meido with a determined look in her eyes. "Meido, my friend," she said, "I feel a strong urge to explore the world beyond our village. Will you accompany me on this adventure?" Meido, always eager to be by Snow's side, readily agreed. And so, with a sense of excitement and a touch of trepidation, the two cats set off on their journey. As they ventured further, they encountered various types of cats, each with their own unique traits and personalities. Some were kind and welcoming, offering them food and shelter, while others were cruel and sought to harm them because of their unusual friendship. Through these encounters, Snow and Meido discovered that the world outside their village was full of both kindness and cruelty, acceptance and rejection. But their bond only grew stronger as they faced each challenge together. One night, as Snow and Meido were making their way through a dark and unfamiliar alley, they heard desperate cries for help. It was an elderly gray tabby cat, trapped and unable to escape. Thieves had stolen his food and were trying to harm him. Without hesitation, Snow and Meido sprang into action. Snow, with her agility, leaped onto a nearby fence, distracting the thieves, while Meido, with his quick reflexes, helped the elderly cat free himself from his tangled position. Grateful for their assistance, the elderly cat offered them food and water, sharing his wisdom and experiences. He told them about the importance of helping those in need and standing up for what is right. "You two are truly an inspiration," he said, his eyes twinkling with admiration. "Your friendship knows no bounds, and your courage is commendable." After resting and rejuvenating themselves, Snow and Meido bid farewell to the elderly cat and continued on their journey, their spirits lifted by the kindness they had witnessed. As the days turned into weeks, Snow and Meido's journey took them through enchanting forests, over babbling brooks, and into fields adorned with wildflowers. They encountered all kinds of cats along the way, some who embraced their differences and formed fast friendships, while others who tried to tear them apart because of their contrasting colors and appearances. However, Snow and Meido refused to let others define their friendship. They continued to explore the world hand in paw, discovering new places, meeting interesting characters, and creating unforgettable memories. But deep down, Snow couldn't shake off a longing for home. She missed the familiar sights, sounds, and smells of their village. Realizing that it was time to return, Snow and Meido turned back, their hearts filled with a mix of excitement and nostalgia. As they approached their village, they noticed that it had changed. The once tight-knit community had become divided, with the cats still harboring prejudice and fear towards one another. Determined to make a difference, Snow and Meido organized a grand gathering of all the cats in the village. With the support of the elderly cat they had saved, they shared their experiences and the valuable lessons they had learned during their travels. They spoke about the importance of embracing differences, challenging stereotypes, and treating every cat with kindness and respect, regardless of their color or appearance. Touched by their words and inspired by their journey, the cats in the village began to understand the error of their ways. They realized that judging others based on superficial characteristics had only caused pain and division within their community. As the sun set that evening, casting a golden glow over the village, the cats gathered together, forming a circle. Snow and Meido stood in the center, their bond serving as a beacon of hope and unity. From that day forward, the village was transformed. The cats learned to accept and celebrate their differences, fostering an environment of friendship, tolerance, and love. Snow and Meido were hailed as heroes, symbolizing the power of unity and the triumph of friendship over prejudice. The villagers understood that true worth was measured not by the color of one's fur, but by the kindness and compassion in their hearts. As Snow and Meido watched the cats frolicking and playing together, their hearts swelled with joy and gratitude. They knew that their journey had not only changed their lives, but also brought their community closer together. The news of their extraordinary friendship and the transformation it had brought to the village spread far and wide, becoming a legend that inspired cats for generations to come. Many years passed, and Snow and Meido, though now older and grayer, were still inseparable. Their bond had weathered the test of time, proving that true friendship could overcome any obstacle. As they curled up together on a sunny afternoon, reminiscing about their adventures, they realized that their journey had been more than just an adventure. It had been a journey of self-discovery, growth, and most importantly, the discovery of the profound meaning of friendship and acceptance. And so Snow and Meido, the white cat with ocean blue eyes, and the black cat with emerald green eyes, continued to live out their days in the village, teaching every cat they met the invaluable lessons they'd learned on their extraordinary adventure. Their story became a timeless tale, reminding all who heard it that our differences are what make us special, and that compassion and understanding can unite us all.